Welcome, everybody. It's great to see all of you at our caregiver session. We're excited to have this shorter session this week to get us all primed up for next week's long scientific sessions. We will talk about a little bit of science today, but mostly we're going to talk about, I think, things that are going to be really relevant to you all and get us all inspired. So I will hurry through these slides and get to our sleep expert, Davis EHRLER, here in just one moment. Quickly, we're going to talk about those sessions next week and give you an idea of, what's going on. Maybe you'll look at the agenda and find the speakers you really want to tune in for. That's great. And if you can't make it for the whole thing, we'll be recording most of the speakers. There's a few that prefer not to be recorded. We'll talk a little bit about who is ACD, just for a baseline for some of our new families, and talk about the research projects that are going on right now, as well as how we as caregivers and patients can really take the driver's seat in advancing things forward for creatine deficiencies. So next week, August 22nd and 23rd, you all signed up for today, so you probably have already signed up for these. High level, Friday is going to be talking about things such as the registry fibroblasts. So how our children's samples that we have donated to science are being actively used and driving research and findings that are relevant to treatments. They'll be talking about gene therapies and several other topics. The 23rd on Saturday, we'll talk about those small and large molecule therapeutics that are being investigated, some clinical insights about patients in the clinic and the symptoms that they are experiencing, and even some treatments that have worked for epilepsy in CTD patients. We'll be hearing about MRS for brain creatine and plasma GAA, as well as findings from the Vigilance study. That's the CTD natural history study. Their big end of project paper is being published. And so if you want to know what all of that research and your participation meant to the field of CTD, come on Saturday and find out. And then that session will end with a really great panel I'd really recommend being present for. It will be some different experts who have experience in advancing treatments towards the clinic, talking about what are we facing, what are our barriers, and how can we move forward. And it'll be an interactive panel, so you can ask questions. All of these sessions will have Q&A. So us being present as parents and asking questions is really encouraged. And in fact, I feel like parents ask the best questions because we get these scientists to reframe these complex things that they maybe raced across in a meaningful way and focus on how they're going to move their work towards the clinic. So I hope you all can join next week. Just again, to back up and set the stage, ACD is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2012, and we are legally required to have a mission focus. This is what we told the IRS. This is why we exist, is to do these things, to advocate, to educate, and to support research. So we are working on our vision to one day have all children diagnosed and treated by 7 days of life. And we are available all the time. If you want to volunteer, if you want to get more involved, reach out. We are a parent-led volunteer board of directors, and a small number of part-time and full-time staff support that board. And we, over these 13 years, have really become the key opinion leaders in this space. And so what do I mean by that? I would say weekly, we are contacted by pharma, by academic researchers, by curious individuals who want to explore whether or not working in this field is going to be easy. And do we have a strong community that would be participating in clinical trials? And are there greater numbers in our community internationally than are in the papers, which I think we all know, yes, there are. So just this year, we have published in 2 articles in Frontiers in Neuroscience. You'll find a paper all about all of the things that ACD is doing to advance the field specifically of CTD. It's a really great recap on things such as our registry and the biosamples that you all are participating in. And then second, more recently, we published in the Orphanet Journal of Rare Diseases our core outcome set that you all helped us to come to a consensus on. So research updates, what's going on right now? Well, as you probably heard, we have our fellowships in 5 different academic institutions. We have some sponsored research going on with the Creatine Deficiency Research Center at the University of Utah, as well as with Dr. Sylvia Stockler in British Columbia, Canada. And we also have a PCORI grant that we're working on right now. The first was that core outcome set that I mentioned that 24 families participated in monthly, and then everyone in the community participated in the Delphi survey. And we established these core outcomes of what is important for us to observe changes in a clinical trial for GAMT and CTD. And now we are working on our second PCORI grant, which is how do we measure these outcomes appropriately? And so some of the talks you'll hear next week, like I said, will focus on brain creatine, serum plasma, and all of the vigilance study really touches on these cognitive aspects of the core outcome set. And later in this year, we will have another survey that goes out that will ask you to give your input on what is a meaningful change in each of these areas. So if your child could expect to show gains in expressive communication if they were getting a really effective drug, what exactly does that mean for you? Does that mean your child will begin signing and that would be a great improvement? Or is it, expand their vocabulary and the length of their sentences? So there are so many ways that we all can engage in having a voice for our children, despite what their communication skills are. And the Parents Project is definitely one of those. And then lastly, we have launched the Race for a Cure this year. So what does that mean? Well, the Race for a Cure is our kind of ambitious goal to say, we have invested so much. We've invested actually because of all of you raising funds and all of the donors out there who want to support us, over $1 million in research to date. And we have laid the foundation for a lot of projects that now have reached a point where our grassroots funding really isn't quite enough. The $30,000 fellowships got them there, but now we need to find those folks who can give generously and help us raise $5 million to advance several of these projects towards the clinic, with the goal of having a treatment in clinic by 2028. And so we did this in a really big public way by announcing this fundraiser at the NASDAQ closing bell last month, with Jeff Allen graciously sharing the spotlight that day with us, with ACD, proudly having our logo in the back here right next to Mr. Beast, and saying, this is it, we're going to hit the road running and we're going to make a difference for our kids. And so now that's our main focus, is to make this happen, find those donors, and also to reach out to our research community, which we did in the spring. And we received a good number of letters of intent from researchers around the world who said, we think we have it. We think we have the project that you should support that will get us to a treatment by 2028. And we reviewed those letters of interest and responded to the very best of those and asked for a full detailed application. And now we find ourselves ready to receive those and to make some decisions and to award grants based on as much funding as we can raise. So the pressure's on. So how do you play into all of this? Well, this is kind of our ACD challenge we've issued in the past, and the real focus of where you can make the most impact in getting your child a treatment or better treatment in the future. One, you can contribute your experience, your child's diagnosis and response to seizure medicine, and when did they experience that first seizure, and all of these things that researchers want to know. You can contribute that by joining our patient registry. And number two, you can participate in the Parents Project. And many of you I recognize from our groups, both Parents 1.0 and 2.0. But you can also participate just by doing that community survey that I mentioned, telling us what are meaningful changes. All of this is supporting clinical trial design. So when we say these are the outcomes that are important, or this is what we think we expect to see a change in expressive communication, this is to inform the trials that we're driving towards to be successful and measure the right things and respond to our children. Third is you can donate to the biorepository Coriell. And on our website, if you want to learn more, it's creatineinfo.org/Coriell, 1R, 2Ls. And this is at no cost to us or you, and it receives funding from the US government. So it's at a very low cost for the researchers that request samples. It's just a wonderful repository that we've used for many years, has been very reliable, and they send you all the materials, and the burden on the parent is to find the clinician that will collect the sample, and then you send it back. You have a FedEx label provided, and this is internationally supported. So it doesn't matter where you live, Coriell will help you to be able to do this. And then lastly, help us fundraise. So join the Race for a Cure. What does that mean? This is different. You know, probably all of you are used to Holiday Heroes and Walk for Strength. Race for a Cure, like I mentioned, we're going big, and I think a lot of us have, you know, the person in our network who maybe might be able to give a little more, but we haven't had a really specific goal where we say, oh, we're, you know, if we raise this money, we will accomplish this. Let us help you. We are ready, and we are actively explaining this to people who have connections and are considering a bigger gift now. We're in that position to really make a difference with their help. So make an introduction, message me, and let's get something started. Holiday Heroes, that launches right after Thanksgiving in the US, so late November, and it's pretty simple. It's putting up your story and asking for support. It's all virtual. Walk for Strength we just finished, but all of these examples, really what works the very, very best is when you are inspired, when you have a great idea that works for you, works for your talents, and you want to get the word out and raise funds. And so today we're going to hear from some parents in a parent-led impact panel after Davis speaks about how they have done that. So stay tuned for that. And Davis, I will turn it over to you. Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this. We're really excited.
Absolutely. Two things. First, I apologize for not having the correct background because I don't know what I'm doing over here on Zoom. And also, the other thing is I don't have slides. I've never done slides. I just talk and answer. So again, sorry, I'm showing up without the right background and without slides, but I come with a lot of really great information. And I also find that when I do any kind of talks at all regarding sleep, you know, with parents, is a lot of the information has to come through questions from you guys. So when I do open it up, jump in, ask me all the questions, because again, there's just so much that comes up that you guys will, you know, bring up that I won't be able to cover or think that I needed to cover, but I need to cover because you guys are curious about it. So just to tell you a little bit about myself quickly is I have been obsessed with sleep, the need for sleep, circadian rhythm, and so forth for about 25 years now. I've also been very, my studies have always been about development, especially the first few years. I learned about this whole creatine deficiency syndrome from one of my clients 10 years ago, her little guy, Cadman. And we got him sleeping and so forth. So I learned so much, and I've been invited to speak with you guys before. And my goal is this, my goal during this talk, like I said, I will probably not do a whole 30-minute spiel. What I'll probably do is just give you guys some information, and then I'm going to open it up for questions because, like I said, that's usually where all of the goods come. So, but one of the things that I have found over my many years of working with parents and the medical profession and so forth is that we do not take sleep serious enough. Now, I know that there hasn't been enough research done on how the creatine deficiency affects melatonin and circadian rhythm, but I think that the best that we can do is know what our child's age defined circadian rhythm schedule is, which cannot be manipulated. It's embedded in our brains. We all have it. It's as sure as the sun and the moon. And then honor that with practices and so forth that create sleep, because sleep really is job one. Everybody on this call can agree on one thing, that it's, one thing, if you're a little hungry, you might be a little crabby. But when we cross over into not getting enough sleep, that's where everything falls apart. Our body starts breaking down. Our brains don't work as well. So one of the things that I say, and I stand behind, is food feeds the body, sleep feeds the brain. So that's why I say sleep is job one. So with our little ones, it's so important, but also with you parents who are taking care of these little ones, and also any medical people, everything, also to encourage sleep. For too long, forever, we've said, oh, it's no big deal. It's no big deal if they don't sleep. It is a huge deal if they don't sleep. So we all need sleep. Sleep is so important for our cognitive ability, as our children are developing their physical development. Once the body is tired, it goes into stress. Stress throws cortisol through the roof. And there's just so much downhill slide when anybody is sleep deprived, especially our children. So with the creatine deficiency, like I said, each child is a little different, but my goal is to help parents understand, okay, what time should my child even be going to bed? How much sleep do children need at each age? And so one of the things that's really important, whether we're dealing with the newborn, the infant, the toddler, the young child, I will tell you guys, and again, I just really want to give you kind of a basis of kind of what they need. Also, our circadian rhythm is what suggests the best time that we sleep, we eat, we have downtime, we have uptime. That is all in us. We give a little pushback on it with our crazy lives and so forth, and also any medications too, any therapies can affect that. But if we know what the children need, we can kind of go from there. And there's just so much crazy information out there. But I think that the most detrimental information is when it is said it's no big deal if they don't sleep. Oh, it's just the way it is. It's not just the way it is. It's a narrative that has caused so many issues with our children and with us. It's so important for sleep, for our health, like I said, overall health, because once we go into stress and the body feels tired, anytime we are tired, cortisol shoots through the roof. So does our glucose. So does everything. And next thing you know, everything starts breaking down a little bit more and more and more. And again, our children, are often the brunt of this, only because, again, parents are always like, oh, I'm so sleep deprived and they don't sleep, they didn't sleep. Well, I'm here to say they need sleep. And here are a few ways that you guys know what time these children need to go to sleep. So I'm going to break it down into pockets of time just to help you guys out. Again, like I said before, I could talk about sleep for the next 24 hours plus, but I want to make sure that you guys are getting the questions that you want from me. So again, we can fine tune it, or I'm just gonna, go on and on and on. And again, I could go on about how important sleep is, but I really want to cater this to you guys. But here is how in general it works. Many people think that the time a child goes to bed at night is going to help them sleep later or so forth. That's true, but it's not true. And here it is. So your child's wake up in the morning, their most normal one is what sets their rhythm off. So usually a child between 6 weeks and about a year old, 95% of them have a wake up of around 5:30, 6 a.m. That is their way of saying, now calculate out. Here's how you calculate out. As an infant, I have about 11 to 12-hour day because I need a 12-hour night. Children actually need about 12 hours of sleep for the first 5 years of their life. Many people think, oh, keep them up later, they'll sleep later. That's not how it goes. Because once you get past that 11 to 12-hour mark at the end of the day, then we go into overtired. And then next thing you know, you've got the adrenaline, cortisol, glucose shooting through the roof. Now, from 12 months, the percentage goes down between about 12 and 18 months. Now, nothing is 100%. That's why I know about 95% of children wake up. Some children wake up a little later, some children wake up a little earlier, but it's usually 5:36 a.m. It goes down a little bit between 12 and 18 months. Some children will start sleeping 6 to 6:30. Then, as time goes on, some children are always early risers, but again, for the sake of this talk, I'm going to tell you what the majority of children do. But again, they usually, and then, about 3 to 5 years old, we see about wake ups at about 7 to 7:30, which means that's when they go to bed at night. So you take their most normal wake up in the morning and you push it out anywhere between 11 to 12 hours. And that's when their bedtime. With toddlers, you can see if they go into a second wind, they just start getting the zoomies. You've got them overtired. With infants, they'll fall asleep on the bottle or the breast. That's how you know you've got them overtired, and so forth. Young children are the same. Sleep needs do go down in the childhood time, which is between like about 5 and 9 years old. And then it goes up again after 9 years old because pubescence and, the hormones and stuff are encouraging more sleep. So that's kind of how you look at it. Now, how do you know? This is what I always try to teach parents. Our infants and toddlers and young children know how to communicate with us. We just don't know what they are trying to say. So if a child wakes up, especially under a year old, I can even be a little bit more generous and say under 18 months, if they wake up between the hours of 10:30 and midnight and or between 3 and 5 a.m., that is their way of telling you they were overextended at the end of the day and they went to sleep with too much cortisol, glucose, and adrenaline in their system. So those wake ups will indicate, oh, yes, I overextended you at the end of the day. And again, as a child gets older, their bandwidth is a little wider. But again, infants, no matter what, need about from the time they're born to 6 weeks, about 20 hours of sleep a day. From there, it goes down a little bit. And then by 6 months, it's about 14 to 15, or even 15 to 16 hours. And then between 12 and 18 months, it goes down to about 15 hours and 14 to 15 hours and so forth. So as you can hear, children need an enormous amount of sleep. Now, I know with some children with creatine deficiency, some sleep a lot, and then some parents have issues with the sleeping. So, again, like I said, I know that there needs to be a little bit more research done on how melatonin is affected by this. I think I'm looking forward to that research, just because I don't think there has been enough care given to sleep research. And also just because, I've always said this with all due respect, that it's very difficult for the medical community to encourage how much sleep one needs when they actually sleep deprive their students. So, we need to turn that around, because I think once we take sleep into consideration and we learn how important it is for our brains, our bodies, our development, and so forth, I think we're going to see a lot more healthy children, a lot more healthy adults, and so forth. So again, this is a lot. Sleep is again, job one. Eating is, of course, so important too, but we want to get it to where it's this beautiful synergistic thing and just bring more awareness that sleep is important. It is not okay to say, oh, they just don't sleep, because nobody ever says, oh, they just don't eat. We need to make sure that we're taking sleep as important as eating, actually more important. So, but like I said, I could go on for days about the importance of sleep, but I do want, and again, I know we've got a lot of people who need to talk during this time. So I actually want to open the floor already up for questions. So so I can be really specific on any questions that you guys have that I might inadvertently not cover if I just go on my spiel with how important sleep is. So I'm not sure how I can see the questions. So Heidi, how does that work?
Yeah, we can help you out and relay those.
Okay.
So, one we got is when you talk about ages and sleep, should we take into account their developmental age instead of their calendar age, since many of them have a developmental delay?
Always the calendar age, because that's how the circadian rhythm, how it develops. So again, always the calendar age is what we're going to look for with sleep needs.
And I have a question, Davis. Can you explain that again? Of you look at when they wake up in the morning, and then you calculate backwards the number of hours.
Yes. So again, with each age, we're also talking we need to encourage day sleep as well. So, children go from the first 6 weeks they work in a 24-hour cycle. So basically they just have time to eat, sleep, and poop. And so then at 6 weeks, that's when they go through a big change. And then we have about 4 to 5 naps during the day, with sleep needing to equal a certain amount of time. And then then the daytime sleep goes down, but the nighttime sleep is like, so I'll give you an example. Let's say your child is a 6 a.m. child, wakes up. We do need to encourage the right amount of naps for that age. But also, if you go out 11 to 12 hours, or I should say 11 hours and 45 minutes, that is going to be where their melatonin is saying, hey, let's get going, because they actually want to be asleep 12 hours from the time they woke up. So we need to honor a little bit of downtime. The average human being from birth till death takes 10 to 20 minutes to go to sleep, 10 to 20 minutes to go back to sleep. So we want to encourage that. But yes, so they're going to want to be asleep about 12 hours from that wake up. But I always say about 11 hours and 45 minutes, only because if I have a child who lacked in day sleep, the best way to take care of that is an earlier bedtime and then create a longer night. So that wake up is what you're going to jump ahead and project out to say, hey, they need to be asleep by 12 hours from this wake up.
Okay. And this is leading to several questions about melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're going to get to this in your talk as we go on, but can you explain more about what we do know about melatonin in creatine deficiencies? Is it in general a good idea to give melatonin to help our children fall asleep? And what about long-lasting melatonin to help them sleep through the night?
Right. Well, like I said, doing some research, there isn't enough research on how a creatine deficiency might affect melatonin. Um, Everything that I looked into and wanted to learn so much about was still not enough research, still not enough research. So I'm going to say when we get our children to bed on time, um, it's going to encourage the melatonin to come up. Now I'm going to say this because again, with this deficiency, I can't really speak to it too much about helping with giving melatonin. I will say in general, I'm adamant about no melatonin. And the reason for that is because when we take melatonin, the brain says, oh, I guess I don't need to make it. And that becomes a problem because then we become dependent on it. And then what that turns around is you cannot take melatonin forever. The body needs to make its natural melatonin. So I'm always like, now, but I can't without, like, if you were to say, hey, if your doctor were to say, hey, this is a big deal. The only way this child is going to sleep is with the help of melatonin. Far be it from me to say anything against it, but I will say there's too much of this going on where doctors are like, oh, if they don't sleep, just give them a little melatonin. But also to completely understand that it is very natural for the body to make melatonin. Our problem is we discourage it because we keep our children up too late. We help, work them out, burn them out, and then they'll sleep. Melatonin has a hard time climbing over the cortisol, and it'll just wait, and then it can't do its job. So bedtime is incredibly important. I would say the right time for bedtime is incredibly important. Again, this is something that I can't support if it's not a 100% necessity, is giving melatonin for sleep, because again, it's not real sleep. And also the brain does get the message that, hey, I don't need to make melatonin, so I'm not going to make it. And then if it's something that you can't do forever, it's something that you should really give a lot of thought to, because then when you take back the melatonin, or you don't have it for whatever reason, then the brain is like, well, I don't know what to do. And then we start getting into not sleeping, and then we get into having to learn how to teach the brain to get that melatonin back up. That's very difficult to do with a child, very difficult. With us, we have to deal with it if that's the route we take, but with our children, that's very difficult because you're going to deal with a child who's not going to sleep until the brain gets the message, oh, I am supposed to make melatonin again.
So do you recommend a weaning schedule for those that are really used to the melatonin? I just from talking to people in my own daughter, I'll admit, we do give melatonin and it works great. And she's on a really good schedule and like I don't have sleep complaints. So the
Right.
concept of let's change this when it's working is daunting.
And that is a message right there, right? Not having something is daunting. So yes, there always has to be a weaning, but yes, if a time comes where it's like she can't do that anymore, then yes, you're going to have to go through a time, because again, her brain is now conditioned not to make melatonin. So for instance, like if you went on vacation and you didn't have the melatonin and you didn't have access to it, you'd be in a world of hurt. So it it again, I know it's natural and all that good stuff, but again, it does send the message to the brain that, hey, you don't need to make melatonin. Again, we always want to encourage the brain and the body to do what it's supposed to do naturally, and sleep is one of them. But yes, I think you are in the pocket of that something is going to come up with all the parents that have been given the green light to use melatonin, that, hey, now we've got other stuff going on over here. Now we've got to pull back on the melatonin. Or as they get older, they do get more independent and so forth. Then what? Then what? So that's kind of where we are. Like, that's what worries me about just jumping on the melatonin train, thinking it's okay because it's natural. But again, the brain's always taking the message.
Okay, we have a couple questions about naps. So
Okay.
one person says their 15-year-old still takes naps after school, and he
Okay.
typically gets a good night's sleep. So she's wondering if this means he needs more sleep at night, or if this could be related to his depletion of energy due to his creatine deficiency.
Mm-hmm. How much sleep is he getting at night?
And I'm curious if he uses melatonin or not. If this person wants to put in the chat those answers. I have another nap question. Will kids
So I'll jump in though. Again, you've got a 15-year-old who is extremely hormonal. Technically, you guys, this is going to blow your mind, but teenagers going through puberty need about 11 hours of sleep each night, like at least 10, at least 10. And they don't get it. They don't get it because life, they've got practice, they've got homework. And so, especially with any child who has a deficiency in any area, I think it's amazing that he is taking a nap after school every day. It's like he is saying, like, hey, I got to catch up on maybe some lost sleep. But it is really hard to find a teenager who is getting enough sleep each night with life. But yeah, during puberty, I'm not kidding. Some teenagers need 11 hours of sleep, but again, some need at least 10, at least 10. So, that's why teenagers sleep all day on the weekends. Their bodies are trying to say, you've got a sleep deficit that you need to pay back. So most teenagers are paying their sleep debt back on Saturday and Sunday mornings. It sounds like he's paying it back every day after school.
He's getting 9 to 10 hours at night, and he is not using melatonin.
Excellent. So basically, I kudos to the mom who asked me that question and to that child who is honoring his needs. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with him doing that because again, the hormones, the everything that the body is doing is insane. And so it's quite okay that he's taking a nap after school as long as I would say is, and this is true of toddlers and young children, as long as he doesn't dip, like all of a sudden now he's getting 7 hours of sleep and then he's crashing after school, I would say stop that. But if he's doing 9 to 10 hours at night and just needing a little shut eye after school, totally fine. The mental energy children put out during school hours, whether they are in kindergarten or 15, is unreal and it exhausts the heck out of the brain.
Will kids naturally drop naps if they are getting enough night sleep? Or can naps negatively affect night sleep if you don't take them away?
Oh, that is a gorgeous question. And yes, and yes. So if a child is getting the correct amount of sleep at night, they will naturally drop the nap naturally because their brain says, I don't need any of this day sleep anymore. So what happens as we get older, the children get older, is the brain needs less sleep and it's going to throw the day sleep out first. So that's it. Now, if you it like if like everybody on this is probably like, oh yeah, I have friends whose kids go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock, but they still take 3-hour naps and they're 4 years old. That's not okay. That's not okay. So if a child, and this isn't 100%, but it's the majority, if a child is getting the right amount of sleep at night, they're going to drop their naps between 2.5 and 3 years old as a way to say, I don't need any of this day sleep. My brain needs all that long-term melatonin release at night. Now, if you have a child that is getting less than 11 hours of sleep a night after the age, and I'm going to be generous here, after the age of 3 years old, and they're still taking those bulky naps during the day, that's not okay. Because what's happening is they're not getting enough sleep at night. So now they're waking up just tired. And then by the afternoon, they need bulky sleep to make up for that. Now, some parents have said to me, what's the big deal? And well, it's a big deal. And here's why, because melatonin, long extended melatonin release, as we know it, is nighttime sleep, is incredibly the most important. A good night's sleep is incredibly most important because when our body is in that deep sleep, that's when vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, growth hormone, everything is getting sent out to our bodies. So we don't want to cheat our bodies out of all of that goodness. And it happens during sleep. So now if that is cheated and then you wake up and then tired all day, I'll put it in adult terms. Let's say you need about 8 hours of sleep a night, but you're only getting 5 to 6. You're going to wake up not refreshed. You're going to need sleep sometime during the day. You're not going to be yourself. And then your day is broken up. Your rhythms are way off. And then you're going to bypass your need for that when your body needs to get into that melatonin at night. Because again, circadian rhythm is a real thing. It's going to tell us for most adults, hey, at 9 o'clock, around 9 o'clock, melatonin is it's going to want to start creeping up. So we're going to need you to kind of come down, because most adults should be horizontal between 10 and 11. 10 is ideal because for adults, most work happens with all the stuff I talked about, the growth hormone, the antioxidants, the recovering of everything. The brain actually flushes itself out during sleep. You know, and it happens between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. for adults. That's really important to remember. With children, same thing happens along with their bodies, their cells multiplying, everything. So yes, I gave you a huge long answer to a simple question, but after the age of 3, if a child is still napping and getting less than 11 hours of sleep at night, those naps are hindering that long-term melatonin release that is so incredibly important.
I will say, and then maybe it's on some of the parents' minds, this may be a little different for a kiddo with creatine deficiency. And I can see them needing a nap where the typical child of that age might not be needing a nap because they're
100%. And that makes sense because just like the 15-year-old we talked about, right? Like I'll say it again, I am okay with a child who needs a nap completely, but also we need to nurture that night's sleep. So if your child is sleeping 11 to 12 hours at night and you still need that nap, yes, yes, yes. It's the children that aren't getting enough sleep at night and having to make it up during the day. So those are two different things. I'm not against naps. I am against naps stealing from that precious night's sleep.
okay. How about, are there any great ways to trigger the body to naturally produce melatonin?
Well, the circadian rhythm is going to trigger it. That just is what is happening. But what we have to do is, again, timing is everything. If we miss those precious times where the brain is saying, hey, melatonin is coming up, because the circadian rhythm, that pineal gland is going to tell the body and brain, like, hey, it's time, it's time. Our job is to not ignore it. So basically, bedtime routine is incredibly important. So bedtime routine should always be looked at as a decompression. Um, I, but again, people, if I had $1 for every time parents are like, we have the best bedtime routine, but if it's not at the right time, you just lost all of the effectiveness. So timing is everything. That's why I started this out with how we know our child's bedtime. Now here's what triggers melatonin too, is time, time, time. If you miss that time, guess what's going to happen? We're gonna come up against cortisol, glucose, and adrenaline is going to go through the roof. They're going to go into a second wind. They're going to spin out. Now, so that's really important. The other thing that triggers melatonin is dark and lying horizontal. So again, the right time decompression. You know that melatonin wants to start coming up. Don't miss that, because after that, we all know it's crazy. It's like ricochet rabbit. And then we go horizontal, and that is what triggers melatonin. Timing, decompression, and horizontal. That's how we do it.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Davis. So there's another question in the chat. Our son has a history of absence seizures during sleep. Would you work towards more naps or more sleep time to recover from those?
Yes, 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 absolutely. Don't cheat a child, especially because we know what happens inside of that brain when those happen. It's exhausting exhausting. Remember, sleep feeds the brain. So if that happens, we know that the brain just did an unbelievable amount of work, right? So we've got to feed that brain back. And the best way to do it is through sleep.
Gotcha. Let's see. There's another person that posted, my kiddo has always had a consistent early to bed routine. As an older teen now, it's between 8 and 9 p.m. She's asleep by 10 usually, but she wakes up consistently around 6 and always has. The mom's wanting to know, is this too early? And does this indicate that something needs to be changed? Other teenagers, young adults seem to be sleeping way past this.
Listen, I gotta tell you this. I love a kid who is an early riser. you know, 6 a.m. Are you kidding me? Like, she will always be successful. She will
Mm.
always, like, you technically, you guys, we all want to wake up at around 6. Like, that's when the brain and body, but we've pushed it out, right? Like, we've just pushed it out, been like, oh, I love to sleep till 10. Again, I bet you this parent will tell me, oh yeah, she's very productive. She's very productive. I bet, you know, is work, wakes up at 6. So that's kind of ideal. But if she is productive, healthy, you know, with what everything that is going on, but 6 a.m. gorgeous. I would say as a teenager, but I think she said late teenager.
Mhm.
So that might mean I'm out of puberty. So late teenager could mean I'm out of puberty. My growth plates have closed up. So basically, all she really does need is 8, 9 hours of sleep. So she's kind of in adult land of sleep needs. So when you said older teenager, those two things say I'm done with puberty and my growth plates have closed. That means now I'm technically an adult, according to the brain. And so yes, 8, 9 hours, gorgeous.
Awesome. Someone else asked, is it or can it also be typical for a kid with CTD to need less sleep? This mom says that her kiddo is always energetic, even when he's awake for multiple hours at night, and he never naps and never has. He's about 3.5.
I would say no. I would say that's probably just inadvertently become a practice. A lot of times when children have energy, it kind of means that their cortisol and everything is a little high, so they're hyperactive. So I I think it's just kind of become a practice. I would say try to encourage an earlier bedtime, because overtired children are usually pretty energetic and active. So I think it would be rare, even with everything that I know about the creatine deficiency, which I'm not claiming I know everything or even a speck of it, but I do know that, again, this is usually a case of needing a little bit more sleep versus less sleep. But again, he's a child, and I got to tell you, sometimes from the time they're born, we just get into poor sleep habits, and it just, you know, trickles throughout life. So but I would encourage an earlier bedtime to kind of encourage 11 to 12 hours of sleep if he is under the age of 5,
Gotcha.
or
And I
at
was
least
thinking,
brain rest. So
yeah,
let me explain what brain rest means.
okay.
Is sometimes the children aren't sleeping even at naps, but there has to be a certain amount of hours in the daytime and nighttime, depending on the age, that the brain is not taking in any stimulation at all. So brain rest is best, you know, again, horizontal. You know, that's really important. Brain rest is incredibly important.
Awesome. Yeah, and that with the increase and rise of screens, it is, yeah, definitely something to work on.
Yes,
I
it
was
is.
taking notes and I saw so 12 hours like until 5 years of life. And I got the 10 to 11 from 9-year-old to like teens. Uh,
Mhm.
5 to 9-year-olds. What's that range?
5 to 9 year olds, it actually between 5 and 9 is when sleep needs kind of go down a little, then they go back up. So usually 5 to 9 year olds need about around 10 hours, 10 hours, like 9, 10 hours. When they get a little closer to like 9, 9, 10 hours. But yeah, you know, and you guys, there is a difference between like you might find in the summer, like your school age children need a little bit less sleep. During the school year, it goes up because of the concentrated learning that the brain is doing. Like usually during summertime, it's free play, the brain's working, but it's not focused learning. Like, you know, I always say to parents, use this as an example. Like, if you play soccer as a kid, whatever, and you just go out and you throw, you know, you're just playing with your friends, you know, kicking the ball, whatever, it almost energizes you. But after a practice or a game, it's almost you're exhausted because everything is focused and the brain is doing so much work. So again, during those school days, you might see a need for more sleep. In fact, there is a need for more sleep. But yes, during the childhood years of 5 to 9 years old, sleep needs go down just a little bit. I'd say 10 hours to be fair. And then they go back up upon the puberty years.
Yeah, I know. I have a 13-year-old with CTD, and school started this week, and Monday he had a great morning, and then he had a rough afternoon at school.
Yeah,
But Tuesday he took a nap after lunch, and then his afternoon was much better. So
much better, much better.
yes,
Yes, yes.
this just supports all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
does anyone else have any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand, or to put anything in the chat. I'm not seeing anyone. I have gained so much information from this, not only to use with my Levi, but also with my other kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's kind of my goal too, because I would assume most parents on here have more than one children, and and so forth. But no, I appreciate this invitation. I love to spread the word about how important sleep is, and how I just think we would live in a completely different world if everybody got enough sleep. And so, again, you guys can reach out to me if anybody has any specific questions. I am more than happy to answer them.
Awesome.
I do have to jump off this call
Yeah.
because I'm actually heading to the airport in a little bit. But you can, reach me on my Instagram. It's at 3 Day Sleep Solution. You can DM me, ask me questions. I promise you I will answer them. Because again, I can't begin to just encourage more sleep, more sleep, more sleep.
Amazing. Davis, thank you so much for being here.
My
Safe
pleasure.
travels.
Thank
And
you.
now we're going to get ready to hear from 3 parents on a parent panel. So our first parent is going to be Whitney, and I'm super excited to see Whitney. So
Awesome. Can you guys see me and hear me okay?
yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, for those that don't know me, I'm Whitney Strauss. And when Heidi reached out to see if I'd be interested in participating, I got really excited. Whether you're brand new to ACD or if you've been showing up for years, it just always feels good to get involved. It's every time we lean in or speak up or get involved by doing something for this community, it really helps move the needle. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is just how to turn diagnosis into purpose. So our family story started probably like many of yours, years of testing, wrong turns, a whole lot of unknowns and questions. But when Reed was finally diagnosed, we got this mixture of relief, but also heartbreak. It was great finding an answer, but then we were faced with what that answer meant for our family and for Reed's future. Something that I was not planning on was the aspect of community that I found upon receiving the diagnosis. Suddenly, we weren't alone. We had tons of people who understood, who spoke, the language, lived this life, many that had older children who could share their story. And it really just showed us that there is a way forward. So when I joined the ACD board back in 2015, shortly after Reed was diagnosed, I didn't have all the answers. I was just a mom trying to figure it out. And really, I wanted to take control of what I felt like was a really helpless situation. But here's the truth. I got back so much more than what I gave. I was immediately full of hope and purpose and friendships that were made that I really wouldn't trade for anything. I've seen this community do amazing things, and it really doesn't take being ready or experienced to make a difference. It just takes saying yes to one small thing. So if you're not sure where to start, one clear path is to participate in research. Research cannot happen without us. And it's so essential when it comes to developing new treatments. So joining the ACD patient registry was one of the very first things that we did when it became available. Completing the profile and surveys goes a long way to helping researchers stay informed, gives insight into symptoms, and can help define appropriate endpoints for future clinical trials. Another thing that we did was we gave a bio sample to Coriell. If you're not familiar with Coriell, it's a biobank for researchers who need access to things like fibroblasts to determine the efficacy of treatments. And this was so simple. It sounds intimidating or painful, but it was as simple as requesting a sample kit, taking Reed to the dermatologist, and he got a quick skin punch biopsy, and then we mailed back the sample. And now they have that stored at Coriell to help support researchers. We also completed a multi-year observational study that was initiated by Lumos Pharma and later taken over by Ultragenyx called the Vigilance Study. And that consisted of in-person visits, caregiver reports, and surveys to better understand the natural history and clinical characteristics of CTD. And ACD does a great job of listing all opportunities on their website. So if you haven't already, go take a look at creatineinfo.org/research-opportunities. The bottom line is that participating in research is more than the forms you fill out or the samples that you share. It is truly fuel for progress. Another way to get involved is to help raise funds and awareness. It's not just about money, although that helps. It's about visibility. Whenever I joined ACD in the early years of its formation, one of our big missions was to spread awareness and to educate neurologists and geneticists on how to properly screen and diagnose creatine deficiencies. Back then, there just wasn't a lot known about it. Very few knew how to test in their patients. So, we were pounding the pavement, advocating. And if you fast forward a decade, it's amazing to see how far things have come. We've got GAMPed on newborn screenings, a CTD dad winning Beast Games, and, the ACD logo was on the NASDAQ signage in Times Square. So very cool to see, how much is happening in generating awareness for these very rare diseases, and awareness, just talking about it, is the key to moving the needle. A few things that I've done personally to help fundraise and drive awareness. One thing, when we started, we had pennies in the bank, no budget, no money to fund research. We were really scrappy, but we were determined. So we really started with some small events that could help us start building up our coffers. So in 2016, we held a Lobster Fest dinner party that was in California, hosted by the Cooper family, where, it was just easy. Friends and family coming together for a fun meal. We had a silent auction, and we saw some success, and that gave us some confidence to do more events. So in 2017, I decided to put together a concert called Rocking for a Cause, which was held at one of our local music venues. And we brought in a band, Mickey and the Motor Cars. We had a silent auction, a live auction, all with donated items. And we were able to successfully raise $50,000 for CCDS research. We went on to host a smaller event called Shopping for a Cause, which was just like a vendor market. We just got creative, and we sold kind of tabletop booth space where local artisans could come and sell to shoppers. And we sold drink and raffle tickets and had some success with that as well. But you don't have to host an event to make an impact. Each year, ACD hosts Walking for a Cause or Walking for Strength, which is a great way to show up and generate awareness. You know, you can sign up for a team or just walk with your family on the beach. We've done both. It doesn't matter. You're literally taking steps to help change the future of CCDS. Next slide. If getting involved can it can take a different shapes and sizes. You can do a holiday fundraiser, a family donation. We've even had local coffee roasters and tea blends named after our kiddos. You can get creative. And if big events feel overwhelming, it's okay. You can post on social media or talk to your child's school or volunteer or mentor a new family. Offering to talk to a family or sharing your story helps people who are just starting on their journey. Sometimes it's really powerful to just be there for someone who is, you know, starting out, feeling overwhelmed. You know, a text or a phone call just to let someone know that they're not alone, or I've been there, done that, just provides a lifeline that can really help someone find their footing. And don't underestimate the little things, you know, a $10 donation or a survey completed or just sharing your family's story. It all makes an impact. This community really works because we show up for each other in big ways and in small ways, everyday ways. So if you've been waiting for the right moment to get involved, you know, here's your sign to stop waiting. There is no perfect time. Whatever you do, whether it's joining research, fundraising, mentoring, or sharing your story, just know you're part of something bigger. And together, you know, we can really change the future of patients with CCDS.
We'll go ahead and turn the time over to Micah.
Yeah, sorry, just had to unmute myself. Can you guys hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for the invitation, Heidi, to present here because I would like to share with you our experiences of the past year where we had our son diagnosed with CTD and the efforts we took to raise some funds and some awareness for CTD and the ACD. So this is Oscar. He was born in February 2022, so he's 3.5 years old now. And he was diagnosed with CTD in March 2024, so just over a year ago, when he was just 2 years old. And I guess unlike some of your journeys, it came as a surprise to us. We always knew something was wrong or it didn't feel okay with Oscar, but we never expected something rare or severe. We were at a neurologist because he had some breath holding spells, and they suggested to do a DNA test just to rule out all of these weird things that may be going on. And then we got the news that there was something found, and that happened to be CTD. Which really started a roller coaster of a year for us. So I guess this presentation is more about us than it is about Oscar. I'll be presenting Oscar's story Friday next week during the symposium, actually. But Oscar is our only child. Desmond and I are his parents, and we live in the Netherlands. And yeah, receiving the diagnosis was very overwhelming. At first, we were a bit in denial, I think. We, of course, never heard of CTD. We started Googling and reading articles, and we thought, well, it can't be that bad. Of course, Oscar's going to talk, and of course, Oscar's going to be potty trained, and of course, Oscar is going to go to a normal school. But as soon as we started having all these medical appointments, we realized it was pretty serious. And yeah, we were preparing ourselves for a future different than what we expected and hoped it to be. Um, and yeah, it was a difficult time for us because we felt alone, we felt helpless. You know, we realized there was nothing we could do to cure him or to treat him. We could, of course, help him in many ways, but nothing was going to cure his CTD. So we felt like we needed to do something. And luckily, we found the ACD pretty quickly. At first, yeah, I remember finding the ACD, and I realized there was a support group on Facebook, but that was a bit too intense because I thought I don't want to hear all these like daily struggles. I want to hear some positive stories about daily life and what life is like with a kid with CTD. So I started following the ACD on Instagram, and actually just went through all the followers the ACD had on Instagram, looking at who were possibly parents of CTD kids, and started following those people. So if you got a request of someone weird, it could have been me last year, because I started following many people. And I actually also started following Jeff. And it was just after the Walk for Strength last year that I started following. And then Jeff, I think he did a 68-mile walk for his Walk for Strength. And I didn't know him at all, but I sent him a message saying, if you can walk 68 miles, I think I can run 68 kilometers. Because I like running, I do that a lot. It's kind of my therapy to clear my head, and well, especially in a difficult time, it helps me to get through it. And I ran a few marathons already, and always looking for a new adventure. So I remember sending a message to Jeff. He think he gave me a very extensive reply, but his conclusion was, just go do it. You've got this.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So I thought,
Because you
okay,
hadn't been jumping that long, and I
I
was
think
like,
someone
uh-oh,
is
you must be
Please
getting
check
sick.
please check your microphone and
It's
make
just
sure
hot
it's
in there.
muted, everyone. Thank you.
So yeah, so he said, just do it. And that's, I guess, the push I needed, because then I had it in my head, I'm going to do this. I'm going to run 68 kilometers and going to raise funds. And it was in my head for a while without saying it out loud to other people other than Jeff. But I did start training kind of in secret. And I'm part of a local running group. So at a certain time, they were planning their runs for the upcoming year. So I said, guys, on the 8th of June, I'm gonna run 68 kilometers. Anyone who wants to join, please do so. And they were really enthusiastic, and they said, you know, they're even more crazy than I am. They said, nice, I'm gonna run 68 kilometers with you. It's a nice day out for us, and we'll help you organize. So it became official then that I was gonna do this. And we started preparing. So we had this amazing logo drawn by an Irish artist for us that we used for the event. And Heidi helped us set up a page for the fundraiser. We used Donor Box, which is a page that suited us very well, because there's different types of donations that you could do. So I wasn't really sure how this was going to go at all. We didn't really know what goal to set. We just wanted to do something, and to, yeah, so many people told us, hey, let me know if I can help. But in those early days after the diagnosis, I was like, I have no clue how you can help, and I'm not really the type of person that asks for help, especially if I don't know what that help could mean. So I found that difficult, but then, this gave us a goal and it gave us a purpose. So everyone that said before, hey, how can I help? Well, this is how you can help. You can either donate or come cheer, or just spread awareness, spread the story, spread the link. And it went really, really well. At first, we started with a goal of 6,800. Everything was in the team of 6,800. But we reached that goal within 4 days, and we upped the goal for 4 times, I think, leading up to the event, and surpassed it by a lot. So this was actually the amount that I was today. So 22,068 euro, 22,068 cents in euros, which is great. So all we did really was share it on our social media. We shared it on WhatsApp and Facebook and LinkedIn. Our friends and family shared it. and it was amazing, all the support we got. My brother-in-law, Sean, hosted a bake sale in work for all his colleagues. He asked his colleagues to bake cakes and to come eat cakes and to donate. So he had the QR codes for our fundraiser everywhere. And I guess it's the generosity of the Irish people as well. They raised €2,000 in one afternoon, which was amazing. I sent out a press release to local and regional news agencies, and it got picked up on by quite a few local newspapers, just sharing our story, but mostly sharing the event that it was going to happen, and the people were invited to come cheer. I did not set it up as an event where anyone could come join me to come run, because I didn't want it to be too big, and I didn't want to get into the hassle of having an actual event where I need permissions and all that stuff. I wanted to keep it small, but I did invite anyone who wanted to come cheer, because of course anyone can do that. But I invited all my friends and my running buddies to join me for one or multiple loops, because I actually, with the help of my running buddies, set out a 6.8 kilometer loop that I ran 10 times. So there was one central spot that I passed 10 times that people could come and cheer for me and just hang out for the day, because it was at a nice location at a lake with a beach bar. Only the weather wasn't great. That was a bit disappointing, but yeah, the turnout was really good. I had more than 40 people running with me during the day, and I guess, well, 100, 120 or so supporters, lots of family. Also, the family from Ireland came over to support. So it was a great day, and we had this little flyer made. My sister designed it. It really was a family effort. My sister designed the flyer with some information about Oscar and some information about CTD, and a link to the ACD and to the donation page, and the route. So we also set it up so that people could walk the route if they didn't want to run. And we had lots of other stuff organized to get some extra funds raised. So we sold the tote bags with a nice logo. My uncle really enjoys brewing beer, so he brew a special finishes beer for everyone who ran one loop, called 68 with 6.8% alcohol, fully in team. And we had these pins made and stickers, and the local beach bar where it was held donated part of the income of that day on the special Oscar menu. So it was really an effort that many people took part in, which was amazing. And one local newspaper or regional newspaper, actually is very well read in this region, came for the day to write a story on the day itself. They also brought a photographer, which shot me at this amazing time where it was pouring rain, and I was just finishing my 6th or 7th loop, I think, here. But I'm still smiling. So yeah, and this was important to me because the other newspapers were mostly about the event, and this was really about CTD and what it meant for us as parents. This title here is in Dutch, but it says like, we've always felt something was wrong. So it was really about the journey we had with Oscar, navigating through his diagnosis in the first year of the whole roller coaster that started. And this is me at the finish after 68 kilometers. I'm still looking pretty fresh, and actually I felt really good. It was amazing because after every round there was family cheering, and there was new people joining me for the next loop. So there was lots of new people every time, and yeah, that gave me lots of energy. So I'm already thinking maybe I can run 106.8 kilometers, but maybe next year. But more important than that finish was for me the people that were at the finish line. They all showed up for me. And I really didn't want to cry. And that, that also, I said yes to this talk as well. because it's a good conclusion to this year we had. And way more than all the money we raised was the number of people that donated. We had over 700 donations. So it reached lots and lots of people. I'm gonna get myself together now, because what I've also learned in the last year was to cry, and to cry way more efficiently. So, you know, letting it stream is my new motto. Just get it out, and then I'll be back to normal. Because this is exactly what I struggled with. So we felt really alone, and it's quite difficult to share the news with people you don't speak to very often, or people you speak to very often but never about like real stuff. You don't say, hey, oh, by the way, my child has a severe disease. It's way easier to say, hey, did you hear I'm gonna run 68 kilometers? So it gave me yeah, it really opened up lots of conversations. It was a good conversation starter, and I had lots of good chats with people about it. I found a community with you guys, but in the Netherlands as well, which just really helped. Yeah, and like I said, this sharing this with you is also a nice conclusion. I was hoping I would gonna get through it without getting emotional, but like I said, that's also just a new me that I've getting to know in the past year. So what I want to say is, and that also is what Whitney said, just do it. You know what Jeff said to me like a year ago on Instagram, just go do it. Anyone could just do it, however big or small. If you have an idea, you can do it, and it will help you get through it. Yeah, so on that note, that's what I wanted to share. If you have any questions, ideas, or you just want to chat, please feel free to reach out. This amazing pin is still for sale, by the way. If you scan this QR code, it ships worldwide, so you can get a real real collector's item Oscar pin. But feel free to reach out, and thank you for the opportunity to tell you about this. And I hope if I can inspire at least one of you to say, just go do it, then this is a great success. So thanks.
Incredible, Micah. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And now we're gonna hear from.
I can't hear you very well, Celeste. I think it's because your microphone is somewhere else.
Sorry, so sorry. It is Friday. Thank you so very much for sharing that, Micah. What an incredible story. And to see your community rallied behind you. So, and now we have one more parent we're going to hear from. We're going to hear from Jeff Allen. So Jeff, if you want to go ahead and share your slides or hop on.
Cool. I am here. Are we sharing on our own, or do you guys have a master tech?
Either way.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
give
can
me a
share.
sec. Yeah, I just
Okay.
have one little slide.
Okay.
Super easy. Okay. Cool. We got it?
Yep, you're good to go.
Awesome. Hey everybody. Jeffrey Allen, also known as Randy Allen in a former life. Believe it or not, they're both my names. I go by both of them. But just when I went on this show last year, in my mind, I go, if I'm gonna go on this show and win it, it's because I was born to win it, so I better go by my birth name. And my birth name is Jeffrey. So hence why some people know me as Jeff, some people know me as Randy. I answer to both. So please call me either. The purpose of my little chat is to kind of probably pile on with what Micah was sharing, is you don't have to have these kind of giant, grandiose visions. You just have to do something. And I know for me, people are like, oh yeah, you won Beast Games and you got exposure for CTD and all that stuff is great. And it's tremendous and it changes everything. It changes a lot for our kids and the kind of the future of our kids. But that wasn't the first thing I did, and it was kind of a culmination of me just doing what Mike did. It's like, this is a crazy idea to run 68 kilometers, but screw it, I'm going to do it. And the thing is, I'm sure Micah shared, like, there was probably a bunch of things that came up that gave her plenty of excuses to say, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not going to do it. But she kept going and she did it. And once you achieve one thing, you kind of go, okay, what's next? I mean, if she's really going to do 106.8, that's wild and crazy, and I have no doubt she'll finish it. But the point is, once you do one small thing, then you move on to the next thing and the next thing, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be great. And like one of the things I want to share is this is kind of a little kind of overview of stuff where I started getting going. So it's right now we're in 2025. It was 2022 where I started kind of putting stuff on the internet. And the first video I put on was This Is Lucas. It's about, pictures of him with some text over it. I edited it on, like, I don't know, Adobe. It's so much easier to edit these days. And the reason I created this was to kind of accompany my walk for strength. Um, And some may know, like, my walk for strength is a little differently. Usually I go out and I walk 68 miles for SLC 688, and I just do it on my own. And sometimes friends come join me for a few miles, but I do it on my own and I try to put out content and raise money that way. But this was the first video I ever put out. It now shows, 8,000 views, but until 6 months ago, it had like 300. But those 300 views were viewed by people that mattered in my community, in my network, who wanted to contribute. Then I go, oh, hey, that was fun. What else can I do? So that year for Holiday Heroes, I wrote a song and, with the help of AI, but like wrote a Christmas song that was around CTD to try to raise money and awareness for our Creatine Deficiency Research Center. Um, a ton of fun. Um, Definitely a conversation starter, kind of like Micah said, like, this, what, you wrote a Christmas song? What is this thing? Yeah, I'm trying to raise awareness for my son's rare disease. So then the next year did Walk for Strength again. And then later that year for Holiday Heroes, my oldest son, Jack, and this was a cool way to help Jack get involved with helping his brother. And he loved Home Alone 2, like just Lost in New York. I was like, I feel like knew every line. And there's a line in it that says, I know where you was. You were smooching with my brother. And I'm like, oh gosh, we can make a really cool clip. And so this was Jack and I filmed this in an hour on Christmas Day, and we've never done anything like this before. And I found someone on Upwork, paid him $30 to kind of edit it and put the background in it from Home Alone, and we turned it. And then the purpose, again, I'm sharing this. I sent this to friends and family, and they go, "Oh wow, like, this is pretty funny. It's entertaining, and you're actually, instead of just asking for money, you're providing something of value or of content. Like you're meeting me halfway. If I'm going to give you $50." You're giving me something of value, of content, of entertainment to show that you are putting in the effort to. And that was a ton of fun to do. And then last year did a walk for strength, and with help, I walked 68 miles again with the help from ACD. I was able to get on the local news and tell Lucas's story and tell our kid's story to the local Bay Area. And all of this happened before kind of before Mr. Beast entered the scene. And I think it's easy to kind of get confused and kind of go, oh my gosh, yeah, well, he won a big game show. He was on a international kind of platform. Of course, it's going to help our kids. But there's zero chance I would have had the courage or the ability to apply for Beast Games And then to get on and actually be able to try to articulate Lucas's story if I didn't do all this stuff before, if I didn't just take that initial start and just go, I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I'm going to do it. And so like when I look at where we are now because of my path, it started way back in 2022, was influenced by Carrie Jo Bichelle at our symposium in 23 or 21. I don't know which one it was. And many of you heard the story, but she was our keynote in Utah and Park City. And it's like, hey, we have a cure for rare diseases. Do you guys want to know what it is? And everybody's like, oh my gosh, excited. And she goes, you need to find a celebrity who has a child with one. And in my mind, I like probably said a cuss word at her, like, you little S word. But then I kind of hit me like, oh, like, I can't just sit around is what she's trying to say. If you don't have like you need to make a big enough splash where people want to listen to you. But to make a big splash, you need to start with a splash. And so for me, it was, can I make a splash in my family through these little videos? Then can I make a splash in my network? I started posting on LinkedIn and asking for support. Then can I make a splash in my community by getting on the news? And then lastly was, gosh, like let's take all these reps I've done, all the work I've done, and can I share with the world? And by the grace of God, and trust me, it wasn't me. It was utterly something divine. And I am absolutely with 100% certainty um, know that God had a hand on this. God wants to use Lucas and I to try to help all of our kids and kids who haven't been born yet and kids who have GAMT and AGAT and kids who have other rare diseases that have nothing to do with creatine is how can we kind of showcase a family story? Because my story is your story. We're all going through the same stuff. We have amazing days and we have hard days. And the hard days are the ones that are kind of etched in our brain because they're different. And you're probably asking why me? Why is this happening? Um, and so I think we have the ultimate choice as rare disease parents to do one or two things, to be bitter or to become better. And making the choice to become better is an everyday thing. This is it's like going into a war room every day. Like I have to continue to kind of choose choose to make the most of it. And the what works for me is action. Is, hey, let me do something, let me share something, and let me and I don't want to sound crass, but I want Lucas's life to mean something. And he certainly means something to our family. He's given me so many blessings, but I also understand that he's got an opportunity to, and all of our kids have an opportunity to give to the broader community, and to teach people about rare diseases, about special needs, about how to care for people, not just kids, but rare disease adults, special needs adults. And so for me, kind of in summary, like if I can encourage anybody out here is take the chance, like Micah said, do something kind of unique, ask for help. Like a big takeaway for me is people want to help, but they're not going to if you don't ask. A beautiful thing is too, I actually heard this yesterday, and it rings so true, is when you ask for money, sometimes people give you advice. And if you ask for advice, sometimes people give you money. So if you are going to get out there and fundraise, like, and it's someone who might have a big checkbook, you know, is perhaps try to ask them for advice first. Hey, here's what I'm trying to achieve for this fundraiser. Do you have any ideas or suggestions? Because they probably do. If they're really wealthy and they've done well, they probably have some unique strategies, and they also might write the check too. Um, so and to kind of wrap it up, um, for me, Lucas has been the ultimate blessing. Um, I've shared this before, but my son Jack gave me the gift of sobriety. Lucas gave me the gift of faith. The name Lucas means bringer of light. He has brought so much light into my family, myself, my wife, um, my other son, our extended family, but now the world. Like I think that's something that's beautiful that like kids come up to me on the street and one of the first questions they ask me is, "How's Lucas? Did you find a cure yet?" I don't have the heart to tell them a cure takes a long time, but the fact that they're compassionate and curious and want to know and want to help gives me a ton of hope for humanity. And I've had a ton of kind of CTD families reach out for me from around the world, one in Denmark, one in Japan, one in Argentina. Um, and they're asking the same questions I am. Like, well, what is there a solution for our kids? What can we do? Um, but I think one thing that I'm just going to bring it back to we have a choice. We can be bitter or we can become better through it. And by choosing to become better through this experience of being a rare disease parent and having a kid with CTD or AGAT or GAMT, um, I'm telling you, doors open because the courage and compassion is contagious and people want to help. And they're not going to help unless you open up, you kind of put yourself out there and kind of go for it. And with that, I am totally available. I've thought probably of every idea under the sun. I'm totally available. You can send me an email. You can direct message me. My ultimate aim is to help find a treatment for our kids within the next few years. And then we have to obviously go through the FDA and everything, but like I will do whatever it takes. This is my ultimate priority. So if you have any ideas you want to run by me, or if you want collaboration, or if I can support your fundraisers in your communities in any way, please reach out. I'd love to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing about that. So we're gonna bring back Micah and Heidi, and we're just gonna open up for questions. So if you guys have any questions or any thoughts, you can put them in chat or raise your hand. I know there were several things that you guys and Whitney said, just saying yes to one small thing is huge, and the visibility, um, and Randy, I remember too, Terry Jo Bichelle saying that exact comment. Heidi, I'm sure you remember it too. But yeah, that's,
I was so pissed at her at the time. I'm like, you. But
yeah,
it's just like it lit a fire in me, and I never forgot it. And I got to thank her for it. I saw her in May. I got to get a
mhm,
picture with her and thank her um, because she definitely inspired me to say, screw it. Why not me?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'm missing Whitney being here, but that was such a great group of
Mhm.
speakers for me because I look at Whitney as my first inspiration. She was president of ACD and just a go-getter, like nothing will stop us lady, and such an inspiration. And Micah, the bake sale day, which was me. I was asleep when the bake sale happened, and I would get a notification every time a donation was made. And Micah did a great job like getting the word out months ahead of the walk. She was drumming up excitement and awareness. And so every day I would get like 2 or 3 emails and Micah, oh, people are donating. And then that one morning I woke up and I was laying in bed and I looked at my phone and I went, oh, there's several. And I scrolled and I scrolled and I just kept scroll. Oh my goodness, what happened in the Netherlands? And Michael finally told me it was a bake sale, and I like part of me goes, I don't know such good people in the US. I
It
don't
all
I don't
happened
know
in
that this would
Ireland.
happen, but in Ireland, yeah, just amazing. And then Randy every day inspires me, and I think it's just powerful. All of us showing up to meetings like this and being here and saying we're not alone. It's just keeps us all
Powerful.
going, keeps me going. So thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, and Whitney made the comment, no effort too small. And I think it's all the little impacts, kind of like the beginning of Randy's presentation, like all the little things kind of like led to bigger and bigger things. But that's how we've gotten where we are. It's incredible to see our org blossom over the past several years. So, and the conversation starters too. I see Colleen put a question. What tools do you use to tap into your community to help with such a profound fundraiser? And that was from Micah.
I'm not sure what you mean with tools exactly, but to be honest, it felt like we didn't put that much effort in, to be honest. Like I said, we shared it on Instagram, just in our stories, and I have only like 200 followers, and so did Desmond, and our families. So it was shared in stories on Instagram, and of course, many of the friends I have there, I know in real life because I have only 200 followers on Instagram. So they knew a bit about Oscar already. And I shared it in all my existing work group, WhatsApp groups, like with my colleagues and my previous colleagues and my family and extended family, neighbors. Just every WhatsApp group I had, I shared it in. And yeah, it just happened. Uh, I was in doubt a little bit whether I was going to share it on LinkedIn as well, but I did eventually, and I'm real glad I did because, of course, you have people there that you don't speak to very regularly, but they were so willing to help and to donate. So I was real glad I did do that in the end. Um, so yeah, it was just spreading the word, and it was mostly people we know that donated. And to be honest, our strategy was also a bit to have people donating twice, because we first asked, oh, please donate, and then we said, oh, I also have these amazing Oscar pins and these nice tote bags, so they all then had to donate again to get one of those. It's a good marketing strategy.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. Definitely. So grateful for you guys sharing all of this. And it just it just takes something small. So, and I love how, Micah, like you have a goal to run now even longer.
It's not official yet.
Oh, and she declared it. This is recorded, right?
It's recorded.
That's awesome. I mean, 68 kilometers is a bear. Good on you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And
And Randy,
one final thing I do want to share is, I was just thinking back on how I got introduced to ACD, and I remember my son Lucas got diagnosed in September of 2019. And I remember I went on Twitter. I'm like, there's got to be a cure. There's got to be something out there. So I was just looking for stuff, and I replied to a tweet. And from that, me replying, I got a direct message, and it was from Laura. And that's who introduced me to ACD. And it's one of those things where, I'm trying to think back, like, would I have really gone on the site and signed up eventually? But the fact that Laura like saw me as a rare disease parent of a CTD parent and said, "Hey, I want to help you," and did outreach, like it meant a ton to me. Like I think about it all the time. So I think it's really neat to be able to, if you see someone or you see someone who's new to the community and you want to help or want to connect with someone and just lend an ear, and because they're probably asking all the same questions you are, and maybe you guys have already talked about this today. Talk to Heidi and talk to the team and volunteer. Or if you see someone online, direct message them. It's one thing to try to kind of share your story in an open thread, but direct message someone and say, hey, if you need anything, here's my information. It meant a lot to me, and now I'm trying to pay that forward when people reach out to me, and it seems to mean a lot to them.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Jeff, because that's what I wanted to mention as well. Because I just told you guys that, I just started looking on Instagram for other parents because I didn't feel ready to like really reach out to someone to hear their stories or to like really share myself. And I didn't really feel ready to join the support group because I thought, I'm really going to hear all the future problems and struggles. And I'm not at that stage yet that I want to, but I do want to hear what it's like to have a kid with
Mhm.
CTD or with a rare disease. So I really felt the need to just like lurk, they call that, I think, just to
Mhm.
follow people online, but to see their daily lives, the good and the bad, because we all have good days that are amazing with our kids, um, a lot, luckily, but there's also struggles and people share that online. And that's something I was really needing at the time. So if there could be like a list maybe of profiles that are public of people that share their stories, that would have really helped me. So I can imagine that's maybe a thing to look into.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm gonna go into our wrap up and share my slides. Um, so let me just get those pulled up and do the slideshow. All right. Um, so again, just thank you guys. What a great caregiver session today. It's always incredible to bring us all together. And to hear not only from professionals and providers who can give us some insight and knowledge, but also from other parents. As we wrap up, I just want to circle back to Whitney, Micah, and Randy's talks and encourage you to think about how you can engage. Um, Collaborating, teamwork, believing, taking that first small step. So engage through participating conferences like you did today, and hopefully you'll be back for the rest of the virtual conference next weekend, Friday and Saturday, as well as our in-person. I always remember walking into that first conference I went to in Austin um, in 2019 or yeah, 2018, 2019, one of those. And just like these people get it. Like this is a room full of Levi's. Like so save the date. The conference is in Midway, Utah, next June 25th through 28th. 2026 through community chats. Participate with us. On the next slide, we're going to do a word cloud. Just throw out some topics that we've done it for about a year now. Throw out some topics that you would like to see covered. What would be helpful? I know the dads group has been good. It's got a good momentum going. But what else can we talk about in the community chats? And then on social media support groups, it's a good way to keep in touch, ask questions, and get community support. But it's also a good way just to, like Micah was saying, lurk, right? Some of us, all of us at different times, just don't have bandwidth uh, or feel very overwhelmed. So even just kind of reading through comments or seeing what's popping up through the community can be helpful. And then through events, there's CCDS Day in February, Rare Disease Day, the end of February, Walk for Strength, Holiday Heroes. So just wherever you can with whatever bandwidth you have, just start by participating. All right, so this is a Slido. It's going to be a word cloud. So if you can use your phone, to click on the link from the QR code and just type in, you can enter in more than one, but just type in some topics that you'd like to see covered within the community chat. I'll give this just a minute or two before we move on.
Maybe even for some people who haven't or are wondering what a community chat is, this is our monthly Zoom meeting that the community participates in, and we usually hear from a speaker on a certain topic each month. So we spoke about educational plans for our kiddos in school and how to advocate for them. Last month, we've had talks on understanding your genetic report, your mutations, lots of different topics. And there's no reason that we can't revisit a topic if you would want to hear about that again. So just kind of where maybe even if you think, where could I use support? Where could I use like expert advice that would lead to some good topics in here?
Yeah, for sure. Mm. I concur with what is showing up. Special needs try. Okay, so almost like planning for adulthood, and the future. Gotcha. This might be a question for Emily. Do you know if I go to the next slide and people keep typing in this, will it continue recording the answers?
It's a great question. I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe we just hang here for another minute or two.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Well, as always, like please just email or ping me or any of the board. And we might do another poll at some point, maybe next weekend or in the future, to get any ideas. But as ideas come up, just feel free to let us know. And we will definitely get that going. Engage through research. So we've talked about Coriell biosamples today. Researchers are accessing patient cells from Coriell and the biobank and using them in their research. Make sure your kiddo's variant and mutation is included by submitting the sample to Coriell. And then with the registry, we recently migrated to a new platform. You should have gotten an email. French and Spanish are coming soon. And that's where all the surveys are rolling out together. Some natural history data. And so there's going to be an upcoming seizure survey. All information that's contained within the registry helps with research into creatine deficiencies. And then the PCORI projects, you've heard us talk a lot about that. We're going to be rolling out another community survey on considerations for outcome measurement tools. And your participation will help ensure that all perspectives are included. There's lots of similarities, but then there's also differences between our kiddos. So, and between, how we view rating skills and, evaluations, things like that. So, and then engage through advocating. Newborn screening. Visit the newborn screening page on our website and sign up to support ongoing efforts. So we've got GAMT on the RUSP, the recommended uniform screening panel, and now states are beginning to adopt it. So if your state hasn't yet adopted to add it, we might definitely could use your efforts in advocating at a state level to go ahead and hasten that effort. And then spreading the word. So sharing about creatine deficiencies with your kiddos' teachers or providers. Or I loved, I think it was Randy who talked about just starting that conversation, using it as a conversation starter. For example, I recently took Levi to a genetic counseling or a metabolic genetic appointment. There was a genetic counseling student that came in, and the Dr. Farron told me afterwards, he was like, I was so excited to see you on the schedule because I know that you are so knowledgeable about CTD. So I asked her if she had heard of it, and she hadn't. And so I gave her some education on creatine deficiencies. So just anywhere you get that that chance, spreading the word will help advocate for our kiddos. And then through volunteering. So Whitney talked about being a mentor to new family. That's kind of what an ambassador is. So, there's a new family that's popped up. They've emailed us. They're in your area. It always helps to know. I mean, we know that we're not alone, but we're kind of spread wide and far. So it helps to know if you have somebody close that gets it and that understands. And then also join a committee. Don't hesitate. Like if you have a passion or if you have something that you want to do, email a board member, contact us, reach out. The committees we have right now are research, advocacy, education, fundraising, and communications. We would love to have you come participate and help us make those be all that they can be. And so one final slide, just I know it's been quite a bit of information today. So key takeaways: engage in participation, or engage by participating engaged through research, engaged by advocating, and engaged by volunteering. So these are just a few visuals to kind of help ping your memory. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys next weekend at the main virtual conference. So thank you again for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Happy Friday.